Hi, Sean Munger here, and this is a real quick video, not a deep dive, but I thought that some of the regular viewers of my channel might be interested in this. A couple of days ago, I saw the fifth and final film in the Indiana Jones franchise, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Now, as you may know, I'm a big Indiana Jones fan, and the classic films, especially Last Crusade from 1989, were part of what inspired me to become a historian in the first place. Last summer, in fact, I made a lengthy deep dive video that analyzed the historical accuracy of the context of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. You can find it here on my channel, and I put a link in it to the description as well. So as a fan and a historian, I think that I'm qualified to review the new film, both from the standpoint of popular entertainment as well as history. So if you have not seen it, my goal here is to say something substantive about the picture without spoiling it. And I want to make sure I don't spoil it as much as possible, so at least not beyond what's in the trailer. So if you're looking for the bottom line first, here it is. Dial of Destiny is a lot of fun. Definitely worth seeing, even if you're a hardcore devotee of the original 1980s films and you're skeptical about a new one, it really is worth seeing, and I do recommend it. So that's the bottom line. Now, obviously, it has a couple of problems, and all the Indiana Jones films have significant problems with historical inaccuracy. I'm going to get to that in a minute, but I don't think it really detracts from the experience of the picture as an enjoyable piece of entertainment. So that's really sort of my review. Here's what I can tell you about the film without spoiling any key surprises. Dial of Destiny begins at the tail end of World War II, involving the retreating Nazis trying to steal a bunch of historical and archaeological loot from under the bombs of the Allies, with Indiana Jones in the mix, predictably trying to stop them. So after the introduction of the film's main MacGuffin, which is a fascinating ancient Greek artifact known as the Antikythera mechanism, I may have mispronounced that, my apologies, I don't speak Greek. The action jumps to 1969, when Indiana Jones, now very old and retired, is finally being put out to pasture. Naturally, someone from his past shows up looking for what he knows about the mechanism, the Dial of Destiny of the title, and that ignites a new globe-trotting adventure which takes place on the streets of New York and then in various exotic locales around the Mediterranean. The main question that I think people are going to ask about Dial of Destiny is it better than Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull from 2008? Unequivocally, yes. So that's good news. Yesterday on social media, I heard someone describe Crystal Skull as Indiana Jones fanfic, whereas Dial of Destiny, by contrast, is a real, genuinely inspired entry into the series, rather than just trying to capitalize on the popularity and the cultural cachet of the original 1980s adventures, which is what I think Crystal Skull was mostly trying to do. Crystal Skull went through the motions of the traditional Indiana Jones set pieces without really connecting them to any kind of compelling story or characters that the audience is invited to care about. Dial of Destiny, by contrast, knows precisely why it chooses the tropes and set pieces that it uses, such as a motorcycle chase through a ticker tape parade, a tuk-tuk chase through Tangier, tense underwater sequence, an infiltration into a treacherous ancient tomb, which of course we've seen in all the films. But it connects these elements to developments in the story that are, although certainly not plausible by any means, at least logical and well thought out, for the most part. So in simpler terms, I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's much better written than Crystal Skull, and it doesn't take the audience for granted, as I think that film did. The history and archaeology behind Dial of Destiny is predictably mangled and inaccurate, but that's par for the course for all the Indiana Jones films. And in a way, in this one, it's less bothersome than it is in some of the other installments. The Antikythera mechanism is not presented as magic in the same way, for example, that the Ark of the Covenant was in Raiders of the Lost Ark, and it's not the sort of blank MacGuffin that the Sankara stones were in Temple of Doom. Indeed, the characters in Dial of Destiny proclaim several times that the powers of the Antikythera mechanism are based on science and mathematics, a claim that's not really borne out by what eventually happens, but at least they're acknowledging that the previous films went into some pretty far-fetched territory. I was particularly upset with the ancient aliens crap in Crystal Skull, as that pseudo-historical theory is highly racist and was in fact injected into our culture by literal Nazis. I mean actual members of the German National Socialist Party between 1933 and 1945. Most people don't know the provenance of ancient aliens themes, but the Nazis were very fond of them. Anyway, without spoiling anything about the new picture, let me just say that if you are, as I am, entertained by seeing Nazis get the comeuppance that they so richly deserve, then Dial of Destiny certainly delivers that. Unlike the magic historical MacGuffins in the previous pictures, the one this time, the Antikythera mechanism, undoubtedly exists in the real world of today. It's a form of ancient computer, and I mean that literally, and you can see it, if you want to, at the National Archaeological Museum in Athens, Greece. The film correctly states that it was rediscovered in modern times in an ancient Greek shipwreck that was explored off the island of Antikythera, which is where it gets its name, in 1901. Now, the script does take some liberties in connecting this exact artifact to the person of the ancient Greek scientist Archimedes, but many do believe that the mechanism had something to do with him, or at least his schools of thought. So don't take the film Dial of Destiny as an accurate representation of what this fascinating little gadget can do, but I do like that the basis of the film is actually something real and something connected to real history. That's a refreshing change. There's also a gag in the film's opening minutes involving the Lance of Longinus, the infamous Spear of Destiny, which Indiana Jones proclaims is a fake. That is literally true. It is a fake. The Lance of Longinus, which today is in the Hofburg Museum in Vienna, has long been erroneously thought to be an object of great holy power, said to have pierced the side of Christ at the crucifixion, but recent scientific analysis shows that it was created in the Middle Ages, probably around the 7th century. The Lance of Longinus gag is especially resonant in Indiana Jones' film, because the occult pseudo-historical trash book Spear of Destiny by Trevor Ravenscroft, an absolutely ridiculous and worthless piece of literature, published in 1972 and largely responsible for perpetrating the fiction that the Nazis were somehow interested in religious occult artifacts. That book was a major inspiration for the original 1981 Raiders film, so it's rather rich to see its object debunked on screen in the 5th and final installment of the series. What I especially liked about Dial of Destiny is that it deals honestly with the passage of time. Based as they are on movie adventure serials from the 1930s and 40s, the original films are stuck in that time period. Indiana Jones as a character first appeared to movie-going audiences in an adventure taking place in 1936. Temple of Doom, taking place in 1935, is technically a prequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yet times do change, and Dial of Destiny shows us Indiana Jones past his prime, living in New York City in 1969, an era of hippies, rock music, and the moon landing. What place does an old-fashioned adventurer from the 1930s have in that world? Dial of Destiny does not gloss over the character's age or limitations, much as Crystal Skull tried to do. Harrison Ford, who is 81, looks terrific for his age, but he's still 81. The film deals frankly with this in an unsentimental and non-patronizing way. I was surprised that Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny was not directed by Steven Spielberg. The director is James Mangold, and I didn't know until the other day that I had actually seen a James Mangold film previously, but he directed the very good Ford vs. Ferrari from 2019, which I found enjoyable and exciting. The supporting cast of the film is pretty good, and there's some favorites from the original films popping up. I won't spoil it by telling you which ones, but some of them do pop up in cameo appearances. I especially liked newcomer Ethan Isidore, whose new character is something like Short Round for a new generation. The villain, played by Mads Mikkelsen, who has also played both Star Wars and James Bond villains, is also pretty good. I should add that there are some sequences in which CGI is used to depict Harrison Ford as considerably younger, for example, the whole World War II sequence at the beginning, and it is the best example of de-aging CGI that I think I've ever seen. I recall a similar trick was used in Martin Scorsese's The Irishman from 4 years ago, with rather unconvincing results. So is Dial of Destiny going to be a hit? I read that it cost $300 million and grosses for its first weekend were disappointing, but the movie business, however, has changed radically since the pandemic. This, in fact, was the first time I've actually been to an actual theater since 2019. And opening weekend grosses just are not the bellwether of a film's success that they once were. I'm quite sure that Dial of Destiny will do big business overseas and on streaming. I suspect that I'll probably watch it for a second time at home within the next couple of months. So I think it is going to be a success. It is not the best Indiana Jones film, and it can't quite measure up to at least the 2 of the 3 good ones of the original trilogy, Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade. But Dial of Destiny is definitely worth watching, and I think fans will enjoy it. So thanks so much for watching. Please check out my historical movie analysis on Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade if you haven't already. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, do all the stuff you normally do for a video that you like. I am working on a new deep dive video, so that will be coming soon eventually. Also, I have a new book out on Amazon Kindle. It's called The 50 Most Important Things in History. It's a very short read. And you can also catch up with me on my blog, The Garden of Memory, where a version of this video appeared in article form. Thanks very much for watching.